Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so I have a request from a few people to talk about the marriage-based process just a little bit more. Once they found out that the rules had changed, people were interested in finding out exactly what is going on. So I'm going to use the next 10 minutes to kind of touch on some of the things that I've seen or heard in practice since the changes. This is not legal advice, this is just to educate people on the possibilities that exist right now in immigration world. So the marriage-based petitions, they are now being scrutinized more so than before. So the legitimate marriages are getting the same scrutiny as the ones that are suspect or fraudulent. So USCIS officers are starting every marriage-based petition from a suspicious standpoint. So the minute they pick up the petition, they're looking at it as if it's suspect. So whether your relationship is genuine or not genuine, it's getting the same scrutiny right now. All right, so what that means is that the level of proof that is required in marriage-based petitions apply to everybody. I mean, it's the same standard as before, but it's just more strict. It's stricter now. All right, so red flags. So the things that USCIS officers are looking for, and this is not an exhaustive list, but just some of the things that they look for. They're looking for large age gaps. So between spouses, if the age gap is too wide in their opinion, they're going to start looking at it suspicious. They're looking at photographs that are submitted. They're looking at the backgrounds. They're checking to see if the photographs are taken the same day in different clothing, same clothing, the location of the photographs. They're checking to see if the photographs are staged or not. Now, don't ask me how they know whether this is so or not. They have their own methods of doing whatever it is that they do. They're looking at short dating periods before marriage. They're looking at short marriages after entry, especially on a B1, B2 visa, visitor's visa, or business visa. They're looking at whether or not you're doing things that normal family does. So what they're looking for, they're digging into your life now. So they're looking at Amazon orders, the socials, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is. They're looking at grocery receipts, and most importantly, and this is something that they've been doing for a long time, but they're ramping this up, field officers. So these field officers, they will set you up. So what they're doing, they're going out and watching to see who is going, who is coming, what you're doing. They will schedule visits as well as they will do pop-up visits. And the same is true for both. They're watching to see what it is you're gonna be doing. So they'll watch you without you knowing, and they'll schedule and watch you to see what you're doing in preparation for their arrival. This is a thing, okay? So be aware of those things. The rule is retroactive. So let's say, for example, you submitted a petition, a marriage-based petition in 2024. Remember, the rules changed this year. Don't think you're exempt. You're not. The same rules that are in now applies to you. So anybody with a pending marriage-based petition is susceptible to everything that's going on right now. RFEs. This is not across the board. I've heard different stories. Once upon a time, they would send out RFEs and ask you for things that are missing. I've heard that they're not doing that anymore. I haven't submitted any marriage-based petitions recently, so I can't speak to that from personal experience, but I've heard that they are no longer asking for them. I can't imagine that they would do that for somebody who is represented, so I'm thinking maybe it's for those unrepresented. And normally when they do that, they'll give you a time limit to respond. So some places, depending on where the service center is, they'll ask you to submit the document within a certain period of time. If you don't submit it on time, you're done. And let me explain, you're done. So once upon a time, if you don't submit it on time, they would just deny the petition and you'll be out there in limbo. Today, you don't submit on time, you're immediately going to be placed in removal. You're going to send out an NTA, you have to go to immigration court, and you're going to be placed in removal proceedings. That's what I've heard that's been happening now. It hasn't happened to any of my clients, but I'm assuming that's what's going on right now based on information I have received. One other thing that they do look for is interaction with your spouse's family members. So they're looking to see if you know the other person's family, if you have photos with the family or at the family home, or if you have communication with family members, things like that. Now, that being said, there are a lot of cases out there. I know of one specifically where they had everything that they thought they needed, including a house purchase and a whole lot of other stuff, you know, together as husband and wife. But USCIS knows what they're doing, and they scrutinize and they ask questions and they look for discrepancy, and they'll separate you and tie you up and do all kinds of stuff. And that case got denied because it was fraudulent, and they suspected that it was fraudulent based on the information that they had. So sometimes you send overwhelming evidence because you think that is what they're looking for, and that's really not what they're looking for. Sometimes you don't even need a lot. They just need to prove that your relationship is legitimate. What else did I want to talk about for marriage-based petitions? That's pretty much it. I just wanted, everybody to know that things have changed. So everything is being done differently. Don't make the mistake, right, and submit a petition knowing that it's fraudulent. When you go to the interview, no matter where in the US you go for your interview, as far as I know, they have television screens in the waiting areas, and the most advertised thing that pops up on that television is going to be marriage fraud. And you're going to be sitting there waiting and watching this television with all of that information coming across, all of the fines, the imprisonments, and all that stuff, and still going to the interview. They're not taking those things lightly. So don't submit a fraudulent marriage-based petition. I have in the past withdrawn from cases where I've gotten full pay because I suspect that the marriage is fraudulent. And are people mad at me when I do that? Of course they are. But I don't care. I have to protect myself. And I wouldn't suggest that anybody do that just because, the outcome is not going to be good once detected. Okay, so make sure your relationships are genuine. Get yourself an attorney. And don't take the chance and try to do this thing yourself, especially not now. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them here. Again, you can find us online at marshaslaw.com, or you can check out the attorney ratings at avo.com and search Marsha Francis. Thank you.